So, you're looking to go wireless with your guitar or your bass. We all want to cut the cable, be able to move around the stage wherever we want, and not have to worry about tripping over cables. But if you look online, there are so many different options out there for different wireless systems. Some of them are cheaper, some of them are more expensive, some have weird terms such as frequency range, wireless bands, groups and channels, simultaneous channel count, and stuff like that. What does all of that mean? And which one is right for you? My name is Scott Ewell. I'm a full-time live musician and content creator, and I've teamed up with Sweetwater today to bring you the ultimate guide to wireless systems for guitarists. I personally actually use wireless at every gig that I do, whether I'm playing on a large festival stage or even if I'm just doing a simple acoustic set. I personally love the freedom of not being tethered to anything while I'm performing, and I also just love the look of a clean stage when you use wireless gear. So it's a little bit of an obsession of mine. But over the years, I've used a ton of different wireless systems for my guitar. And in this video, we're going to go over what to look for in a wireless system, what are best practices when using a wireless system, and I'm going to give you 5 different recommendations of wireless guitar systems, starting from the most affordable up to the pro level tier. So you can find which one works best for you and your budget, but also know what are the differences between the cheaper and the expensive models. Anything that I mentioned in this video will be linked down below in the description, so you can check this out on Sweetwater. So, what to look for in a wireless system? Let's start with some of the obvious stuff, and I think most people understand these concepts. Battery life. If you're playing 4 sets a night, you need to make sure that your battery life is listed at over 4 hours. What is the wireless range of the guitar system? Are you playing on big stages and running all over the place, or do you stay generally close to your pedal board? I think most people understand those, but by the end of this video, you're going to know what I believe are the 2 most important things to know when looking for a wireless system. One is the frequency range or frequency bandwidth, and second is the wireless bands. If you don't know what that means, don't worry, you will by the end of this video. And this is also going to answer why, if you look at reviews of the exact same wireless system, some people will say it works perfect for them, other people will say it doesn't work at all. So how does a wireless system work? A wireless transmitter and a wireless receiver need to be set to the same wireless frequency in order for them to communicate with each other. Wireless examples could be 500.125 megahertz, 2.412 gigahertz, 906 megahertz, 5.8 gigahertz. For right now in the video, the numbers specifically aren't that important. What you just have to know is that if your transmitter is set to 500.125 megahertz, your receiver needs to be set to 500.125 megahertz in order for them to communicate with each other. Now, what can happen is, depending on where you're performing, different frequencies will be available based on the area that you're performing at. Sometimes when you get to a venue, there'll be stuff that are transmitting on or near a frequency that your system is currently transmitting on. If that happens, that's going to cause your wireless either to not work at all, it'll get occasional dropouts, or you'll get less range. That's one of the biggest issues with using wireless gear. What frequencies are available will vary based on where you are performing, especially as you go from gig to gig. And I think that's what most people are worried about with wireless, is their wireless not working based on interference or dropouts. So avoiding interference is one of the most important things about a wireless system. So in order to not have that happen, you need to set your wireless to a clean or clear frequency. You need to set it to a frequency that is open and not used by anything else. And you're in luck, because all 5 of my suggestions in this video are going to have a way to scan in order to find the clearest frequency. And that's one big reason why I chose each of these 5 wireless systems. But the transmitter and the receiver need to be set to the same frequency, and it needs to be set to a clean frequency that is not used by anything else. All right, let's start with the cheapest recommendation. So let's go to Sweetwater, type in guitar wireless, and let's set it to sort by price, low to high. And you're going to see a ton of these different styles of wireless systems. These are the portable plug and play models, as I like to call them. The transmitter and the receiver both have a built-in battery. Usually it charges with USB-C. The transmitter plugs into your guitar. Receiver plugs into your amp or pedal board. And with these types of plug-and-play wireless systems, they keep it really easy for setting the wireless frequency. Remember how earlier I said 500.125 megahertz and all those different numbers? With these, they usually keep it very simple. You can set it to either channel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. I'm going to choose channel 3, set the transmitter and the receiver both to channel 3, and they're going to work. It's pretty simple, and that's what makes these type of models so appealing. Something to be aware of if you use these types of systems is that they can have 3 common problems with these types of affordable portable, plug-and-play type of models. One, some of them don't work with every type of pickup. Active pickups in particular can cause problems. Second, a good chunk of these types of systems don't have a way to scan for the best frequency. I chose channel 3, but how do I know that channel 3 is the best option? And a lot of these systems also transmit in probably the most crowded or used wireless frequency spectrum, which is the 2.4 gigahertz frequency range. Stuff like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth also use 2.4 gigahertz. So remember how we talked about that your wireless needs to have an open and clean frequency in order for it to work properly? 2.4 gigahertz is used by a ton of different stuff, so it is a kind of crowded frequency spectrum. So it just increases the chances that your wireless won't work. It's not guaranteed. It just increases the chances because 2.4 gigahertz is very crowded. And this is why I personally really like the Xvive A58 model. This is only a $150 wireless system. It's affordable, it's easy to use, it's portable, but they actually addressed all three of those issues with this model. If you're using this wireless on a guitar system with active pickups, push this button here on the side until this light comes on, letting you know that you are in active pickup mode. Instead of choosing just a frequency, you can also scan if you hold the button on the side of the receiver, and you can see right now it's scanning to find the best frequency. It's important to always scan with your transmitter off. That's true with any wireless system, by the way. But when I did a scan, it said to choose channel 1. So I'm going to use channel 1. Being able to scan is very important for being able to find the cleanest frequency where you're performing at. And this one does not transmit in 2.4 gigahertz. Instead, it transmits in a frequency spectrum of 5.8 gigahertz. And in my experience, generally, 5.8 gigahertz is more open and less prone to interference than 2.4 gigahertz. So that's what I really like about this system. They also do have the AC58 model, which has a carrying case for it. You know, kind of like Apple AirPods, you put the wireless in the case and then the case charges it. This is extremely convenient to just throw in your gig bag. While I personally use some of the higher end models that we're going to go over in this video, I always have this one with me as a backup. For best results with this system, make sure you keep it 6 to 10 feet away from a Wi-Fi router. The limitations are that there are only 6 channels to choose from, and therefore you only have 6 frequencies available in order to find a clear frequency. You're going to notice as we go up these tiers, we're going to have systems that have hundreds of frequencies, and the higher tiers will have thousands of frequency options in order to find a clear frequency. This one is limited to just 6, and that's part of the reason why it's priced where it's at. So just realize with only 6 frequency options total, it's possible that you can get interference with this system. It's just a possibility, and in my experience as I've taught people about wireless systems, I found that there's a good chunk of people out there that as soon as they hear the phrase, oh, wireless might not work, they get really worried about it and they're like, I'm not even going to mess with it. If that's you, I'm going to give you 2 pieces of advice. One, if you're really that worried about it, check out some of these higher end models. They're going to be more reliable for those reasons. And then second, I'll just remind you that cables go bad all the time, amps go bad all the time, pedals go bad, input jacks and pickups on your guitar go bad. I mean, how many times have you seen a guitarist unplugging every patch cable that they have on their 30 boutique pedals pedal board and trying to figure out which patch cable's gone bad? It doesn't prevent you from using that equipment live. Test it out at soundcheck just to make sure it's working, and switch to a cable if you need to. Just have a cable ready. Especially if you have some of these cheaper, more affordable models, that's just best practices. So I personally recommend the Xvive AC58 for the most affordable option for wireless guitar systems. Okay, so the Xvive is great, it's affordable, it's cheap, it's easy to use, but we want more frequencies. More frequencies are going to mean more reliability with your wireless systems. And that's something that I want you to understand as we go through this video. The more options that you have to find a clear frequency, the more likely it is that your wireless is going to work as you go from show to show. More frequency options, more reliability. So let's find some more frequencies. For the second tier, I really like the Shure BLX model. And this model is going to cost somewhere between $330 and $420. So these aren't quite as portable as the Xvives, but you're going to find that there's a ton more frequency options with this system. You're going to have way more than just 6 frequencies to choose from. Now here is where we're going to have to learn about frequency range or frequency bandwidth. Remember I said that's one of the things that we're going to learn about. Frequency range, also known as frequency bandwidth. Instead of having just 6 channels, 6 frequencies to choose from, we now have a range in which our wireless can operate. So let's look at the BLX system. This model in particular that I have operates between 542 and 572 megahertz. So this wireless can transmit on 550 megahertz, 562.500 megahertz, 556.100 megahertz. There's a ton of different frequency options between 542, and 572 megahertz. So that means that the frequency range or frequency bandwidth of the system is 30 megahertz. If this system operated between 470 and 500 megahertz, that would still be a tuning range or a tuning bandwidth of 30 megahertz. Does that make sense? Do you see how many more options you have here just jumping up to this next level? More frequency options means more reliability. So with this system, this is the transmitter. It's powered with 2 AA batteries, and you can clip it to your guitar strap like this. There is still a way to adjust the gain. You have this wheel right here to adjust the sensitivity of it. So if it's distorting, turn it down a little bit. This wireless also has scanning. Push the group button to do a scan. A group scan will just scan every available frequency in your wireless system. So when you get to a gig, do a group scan. And this time, it's chosen Group B, Channel 9. So what I'm going to do is on my transmitter, I'm going to push the group button until it goes to Group B, and then I'm going to push the channel button until it goes to 9. Group B, Channel 9. And as soon as I do that, you can see on the receiver that I have these RF bars right here. This just shows me the strength of the wireless signal, and it is all the way up, letting me know that this is a very strong wireless connection that I have. And now I'm ready to use my wireless. But there's one more thing to know that I think is the most important thing if you get this model. This next part might be a little intimidating, but this is actually one of the most important parts in order to find the right wireless for you, especially at this tier. This is actually really important. This part I think is one of the most important steps at this tier. So if you look at the BLX system, you can click where it says wireless band. Remember, that was the other thing that I said was going to be really important for understanding which wireless system to get. We now understand frequency range. Now we're going to understand wireless bands. But if you click on the BLX system, it gives us H10, H11, H9, J11. What does all of that mean? Well, it's all listed here on the Sweetwater website. H10 band is going to operate from 542 to 572 megahertz. That's the system that I have. H9 band is going to be from 512 to 542 megahertz. This is still 30 megahertz of a frequency range. It's just in a different part of the spectrum. H11 band is going to operate from 572 to 596 megahertz. So that's actually only 24 megahertz of frequency range. Does that mean we should avoid that band because it has less of a frequency range? No, actually, because it depends on where you are performing. Remember how I said as you go from venue to venue, what frequencies are available are going to vary, especially as you go from show to show. Different cities and different states will have different frequencies that are available. There can be different TV channels that cause interference on certain frequencies in one state, but then they're okay in another state. If it's not making sense yet, I think one of the best ways to understand this is to look at some of the reviews on the BLX system. It's rated generally pretty well, but let's look at this review. One person said that this system is rock solid, never gives any problems, 5 stars. The review right below it actually says, no matter which channel I use, it always drops out, 1 star. Do you notice what's different about these two reviews? They actually live in completely different states. So they're going to have different results based on the city and the state that they're living in. I don't know which wireless band they brought because they didn't include that in their review. And I bet you most people don't know this. Most people aren't aware of this. So you knowing this is going to put you ahead of the curve, and it's going to be much more likely that you're going to leave that 5-star review instead of that 1-star review if you understand this concept. So if we know that wherever we're performing or what state or city that we live in is going to determine which band we should get, how do we know which wireless band we should get? Well, Shure actually has their wireless frequency finder system specifically for this reason. So this is a free tool on the Shure site. Go to the wireless frequency finder. So you'll put in your location. I'm in Colorado, so let me just put in Denver for this example. Which series are we looking at? In this case, we're looking at the BLX, but they have their other models as well. And then hit search. Based on these results, it says I should use the H9 band in Denver. Next best choice is H10. Next best one is J11. And it says I should avoid the H11 band completely, actually. You can see in the H9 band, it says I can use 10 of these wireless max. That is always in best conditions. That's not guaranteed that you can use 10. This is about avoiding known wireless problems in the area. So for Denver, I should go with the H9 band. The model that I have here with me is the H10 band, which still seems okay, but it's not going to be as reliable as the H9 band, at least in Denver. But now let's search for the guy who liked this system. He lives in Manchester, Connecticut. It recommends to use the H9 band and says to avoid the H11 band. The guy who left this review very likely bought the H9 band and is having a great time using his wireless because it's the right band for where he lives. If he bought the H11 band by mistake, he's probably not leaving a 5-star review, to be honest. Let's look at that 1-star review. He lives in Melbourne, Florida. It says that you should use the J11 band here, and you should avoid using the H10 or the H11 band. This person very likely ordered the H10 or the H11 band, and that's why he's having problems and left a 1-star review. And also something I wanted to mention, since the 1-star review was based in Florida, I'm also going to do the same search for Miami. Miami is known for being one of the toughest places for wireless systems to work. And in Miami, it says only use the J11 band. And even then, it has limited number of channels. None of the other ones will work. So if you're in like Miami, Phoenix, Chicago, those are all very crowded RF environments, which make it tough for wireless systems to work. Scanning is not going to do anything if 0 frequencies are available. You can scan all you want, but if none of those frequencies are available, scanning doesn't matter. All of those frequencies are dirty or taken. You can't find a clear frequency. Even with 30 megahertz of tuning bandwidth, that is still a possibility. That's part of the reason why these are the more affordable models. So use the Shure Frequency Finder website in order to find which system is right based on where you're performing. Now, you might be heading out on tour and you might be asking, well, what does this matter? I'm going to go from state to state. If you're a touring artist, do you see the value of having more frequency options, especially as you go from state to state or city to city? One frequency band will work in one state and then it won't work in another. That's what happens when you're using systems like this. So at this tier, I do not recommend this system if you're going to be touring and traveling from state to state. If you're kind of like a weekend warrior and you basically only play in your hometown, or you're a church or a school or a venue and you're at a fixed location, you can go with these types of models. However, if you're touring, you need to start looking at the higher tier models. That is very important for deciding which one of these wireless systems is right for you. I know that was a lot of information, but honestly, I think that's the most important thing and will give you the best results for your wireless. If you're staying mostly in one location, make sure you find the correct band. If you're going to be touring, don't go with these models and go with the higher end models. So let's go on to the next model. This is a very popular model for guitarists and bassists, and for good reason. This is the Shure GLX-D Plus system. This one costs about $600, and the wireless receiver acts as your tuner as well. This makes it very convenient. Guitar players can put it on their pedal board. It's their wireless receiver and their tuner all in one. This one is really convenient. In order to scan, you push this one button right here. It will scan for the clearest channel, and it'll actually send that over directly to the transmitter, which makes it very easy to scan and sync. You can also charge the transmitter via USB-C. The battery is this one right here. This is actually a specific battery, so I would recommend getting a spare just in case if you forget to charge it. They're not very expensive. Also with this one, the body pack is much more solid than the BLX. The BLX one definitely feels cheaper. And in order to access the tuner, just push this button, and now your receiver is also a tuner. You can push this mode button in order to adjust the sensitivity. So if it is distorting with your active pickups, you can adjust that here, which is definitely important to work with different types of guitars. If you happen to get interference in the middle of the show, push that channel scan button. It'll find a new frequency and it'll send that over to your transmitter. The GLX-D Plus system also has groups. You can see I'm in group 1 right now. For this model, if you are the only one using a GLX-D Plus system, set it to group 1. If there are multiple musicians, such as you and your bass player, using the GLX-D Plus model, set it to group 2. Groups and channels can be a little bit more complicated than I want to go over in this video specifically. I do have a dedicated video on the topic on my channel if you want to know a little bit more about groups and channels. Now, this one is a little bit different than the 30 megahertz tuning bandwidth, and the reason why is because this one operates in both 2.4 gigahertz as well as 5.8 gigahertz. I know I said that 2.4 gigahertz can be crowded, and that's true, but this one has two different spectrums completely, 2.4 and 5.8. There are places that you're going to play where 2.4 is available and 5.8 isn't available, and vice versa. So it's very nice that you can scan both frequency spectrums with this one. You might notice with this system that there isn't an option to select a frequency band. And that's because this system only operates in 2.4 and 5.8 gigahertz. And what's great about those two frequencies is that they are legal to use anywhere in the world, except for 5.8 in Japan, but everywhere else it's legal to use those frequencies. That's what's also great about the system. You don't even have to worry about those bands. There's just one model, and it's in two different frequency spectrums. This is very important. Make sure that you get the GLX-D Plus model. There is an older GLX-D model, that's the legacy model. That one only operated in 2.4 gigahertz. So if you own a GLX-D model, there is a new model, the Plus model, and that operates in 2.4 and 5.8 gigahertz, which is much more reliable than the old GLX-D model. Make sure it's the Plus model. The best practices with this system is to keep it at least 6 to 10 feet away from Wi-Fi routers. Wi-Fi routers can cause interference with this system. So that one's a really nice one. Now we're getting into the top 2 tiers, and these are the systems that you want to look into if you want a lot of reliability, and especially if you're going to go on tour. So for the 4th tier, we are now looking at the Sennheiser EWD wireless system. This system's going to cost about $660 or somewhere around there. Now this system is going to have a large tuning bandwidth of 56 megahertz. That's quite a bit of tuning bandwidth or frequency range that you have to work with. At this point, you should be pretty confident that you should be able to find a clear wireless signal in most situations. We've seen Metallica's wireless systems cut out. No system is 100% bulletproof. There's still best practices to have. But as far as reliability for tuning bandwidth, this is where it starts to get very, very reliable. So with this system, the body pack also takes 2 AA batteries. The body pack also feels nice and rugged. Scanning is really easy on this. You just go to auto scan. And once it finds a clear channel, you just push the sync button on the transmitter and also push a sync button on the receiver. It's nice that it does this without having to sync up with like an IR port like some of them do. Just push the sync button on both and they will be synced together. You also can adjust the gain as well as the AF out. The gain will be the level from your guitar going to the wireless receiver, and then the AF output will be the signal coming out of the back, going into your pedal board or your mixer or wherever you're trying to send the signal. So you have 2 different spots to set the gain properly in order to get the best tone possible. With this system, we do have 3 different bands. Q16 band operates from 470 to 526 megahertz. R16 band operates from 520 to 576 megahertz. And R49 band operates from 552 to 608 megahertz. Sennheiser does have their wireless finder as well. It's only available in a few models, but it is available for this one. So if I search for Denver, it says to go with the R1 band, but even the Q1 band says I could use 54 possible systems all at once, so it's still really good. Even if I search for Phoenix, which is known for being extremely congested and really tough for wireless systems to work, it says I can use 10 in both of the bands. And this is where I want to go over what's another spec that you might notice, which is simultaneous channel count. Do you see where it says that I could use a possible 67 wireless with the R1 and 54 in the Q1? Anytime you see this number, that is in best possible conditions, like with absolutely no other wireless interference. You're almost never, ever, ever going to get that. Just keep that in mind. That's just in best conditions. But what I want to point out with this, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this one, is that if you plan to use a lot of wireless systems at once on stage, this includes if there's wireless mics, wireless for guitar, in-ear monitors, and stuff like that, the more wireless that you use, the more you need to be looking at these higher tier models. Let's look back at the BLX model. Remember, in Denver, with this entry-level wireless system, it says I can use 10 wireless max versus this higher tier one, which says I can use 60 plus max. Again, those are always perfect conditions. You almost never get that, but you can use much more wireless at once if you go with these higher end models. If this isn't making sense, just know more wireless on stage at once. You should be looking at the higher tier models. You should not be looking at the more affordable models if you need a lot of wireless on stage at once. That's something I wanted you to know, because if you made the mistake that I did when I got my first wireless system and I fell in love with being able to move around wherever I could and having a clean stage, I bought everything was wireless and I bought all the cheap stuff. And then I ran into that problem where someone's wireless wouldn't work and then we tried to fix it and then someone else's wireless wouldn't work. This is a problem that I ran into in my wireless journey. The more wireless you use on stage, the more you should go for the higher end stuff. Now you might have noticed there's a massive jump in how many frequencies you can use from that BLX model to that EWD model. Why is that? You can use almost like 10 times the wireless systems, but the bandwidth is only like basically doubled. And this is because the BLX system is an analog system And the EWD system is a digital system. Both Shure and Sennheiser have different analog and digital models. This isn't a Sennheiser versus Shure thing. This is an analog versus digital thing. Analog wireless has to worry more about something called intermodulation, which again, I'm not going to go over in this video, but digital has a better time at finding a clear frequency than analog. You can see just how many more systems we can use at once. That's because digital is much better at finding a clear frequency, and you can use more of them at once. And actually, people are surprised to hear this, but digital actually will give you a more natural tone than analog based on how analog has to work. And in my experience, when people hear digital with wireless, I think they get it mixed up because it's kind of like the debate of tube amps versus amp modelers that will never end, or MP3s versus WAV files. Digital wireless is something completely different. I don't want to go into too much depth into that. I do have a separate dedicated video on the topic on my YouTube channel if you want to go down that rabbit hole. But just know that digital is going to give you much more reliability with your wireless systems. So if you're using a lot of them at once, or especially if you're touring, you should be looking at a digital wireless system that has at least 40 megahertz of a frequency range or tuning bandwidth. 40 is probably on the low end if you're touring, but at least at that level, and a digital wireless system. And that's what I like about the Sennheiser EWD, 56 megahertz of tuning bandwidth, and also is a digital wireless. At this level, you should be quite confident that your wireless is going to work. And this brings us to our top tier model. The top recommendation that I have is the Shure SLXD Plus system. This is actually a very new release, but this system spans from 470 to 608 megahertz. So the frequency range or the tuning bandwidth of this is 138 megahertz. And you get that much tuning bandwidth at a price of about $770. So with this system, at least in the United States, you don't have to worry about bands. You don't have to see, because this actually spans the entire legal UHF frequency range that we have here in the United States, 470 to 608 megahertz. So if you're in the United States, you just have to get the G57 band, and that's what's available on the Sweetwater website. If you're traveling to other countries, that's where you have to look at the different bands and see if your wireless is going to work in those countries. Some countries have different laws about which wireless systems you can use. So these are the different bands for the SLXD models for the different countries. You just have to make sure that your wireless is legal to use in those countries that you're playing in. I went to Europe last year for a tour, and I had to check to make sure that the wireless I was using was legal to use in the countries that I was playing at. What's really great about this system is once you sync the two of them together, they're automatically connected. So whenever you do a scan and set it to a new frequency, it will automatically send that over to the transmitter, which is extremely convenient. But what's really incredible about this system is that it has automatic interference management. So if it gets interference, it's actually going to update both the transmitter and the receiver to a new frequency. So what I've done is I've set this transmitter right here. It's a non-Shure transmitter, just to show you it works with any wireless system, and it's set to a frequency that's going to cause interference with my wireless. As soon as I turn this on, you're going to see it says that it's detected it, it's scanning for a new frequency, it set that new frequency, and it set it to the transmitter and the receiver. So even in the rare situation where you do get interference in the middle of the show, it's going to auto-update to a new frequency, send it to the receiver, and send it to the transmitter. That's an insane level of reliability. So at this point, you should understand why this system is so valuable. 138 megahertz of tuning bandwidth, that's basically the entire range in order to find a clear signal. And if by some reason you happen to get interference, if someone backstage or something like that turns on a wireless and it happens to be set as the same frequency as you, it'll do that automatic frequency update. It'll send it to your receiver and your transmitter, and the show goes on like nothing happened. It is important that you still scan when you get to the show, because when you scan, the system's going to go, oh, these are the available frequencies. So if it does get interference, it's going to pick from one of the other clear frequencies in order to set it. So you still want to make sure that you scan at your show. You should be scanning with every system, to be honest. I just want to make sure that you understand. Make sure you still scan with the system as you go from show to show. If you're using a lot of wireless at once, if you're going on tour, this is definitely the system to look at. Even if you're not going on tour and you just want a really solid and reliable wireless system, this is also a system that I definitely recommend. They do also have a dual receiver model. It's the same size as the single receiver that I showed you in this video, but it's two wireless in one. So you have two separate outputs. This could work if you play like guitar and acoustic guitar or something like that, or if you run like a quad cortex or Helix Stadium and process two instruments at once, like a guitar and a bass. This is a great option for that. And they do also have the quad model, which is a rack mount model that's 4 wireless in one U of rack space. This is really convenient if you use amp modelers like, Fractal, Helix, Quad Cortex, stuff like that, and you send MIDI messages to change all of your patches. So you have all of your pedals in your rack and send MIDI messages that sync up to like the backing tracks and the click track to change all of your patches for you. The quad model is really great for that. So there are a bunch of different options. There's also a portable model as well. This one is battery powered and it's much smaller, much more portable. And this is actually personally the one that I use with my Helix Stadium. I really love how portable it is. And then I can use it with different rigs. But if you have like one main pedal board, it's nice how portable and compact that is. It's up to you to make that decision on which one you want. But just make sure, this is very important, that it is the new SLXD Plus model. Just like the GLXD Plus model, there is a legacy SLXD model. There's also an even older SLX model, which you probably won't be able to find anymore, but the SLXD and the SLXD Plus are two different systems. SLXD Plus is going to have the 138 megahertz of tuning bandwidth and the interference management. Make sure it's SLXD Plus, not the legacy SLXD model. That's definitely very important if you want all of these features. So those are the 5-tier recommendations. I know the video's already gone on pretty long, but I want to give you best practices really quick while you're using wireless gear. First of all, just make sure you scan before every gig. Remember, as you go from show to show, the wireless frequencies that are going to be available are going to be different. A lot of people make the mistake of, oh, the wireless was fine at this other place that I played at. It doesn't matter. It's going to change as you go from gig to gig. Make sure you scan as you go from gig to gig. That's true on any of the tiers. Second, line of sight from the transmitter to the receiver are always best. Most guitar players have their wireless on a pedal board, so it's not as crucial for guitar players, but some people will still have it like in the back of a rack, like I was talking about with that quad model. The transmitter and the receiver, at least the antennas, should be able to see each other as best as possible. So if you scan before the show, make sure you have good line of sight, and you've gotten the correct wireless band for where you're performing, you've followed the best practices for using wireless gear, and you're more likely to be happy with your wireless. That was a lot of information, I know. Should you go with one of the cheaper models or should you go with one of the higher end models? Now you're more informed on making the decision of which wireless is right for you. And even if it's not one of the wireless systems that I went over in this video, like I said, Sweetwater has a ton of different options for different wireless products. Now you know what to look for with the specs when you're looking for a wireless product. If you're staying mostly in town and you don't have a huge budget, you can go with some of the cheaper models. Just make sure you get the correct wireless band for where you're performing. If you're going on tour or you need a large channel count, make sure you look for some of those higher end models. I hope this helped you guys out. Again, many thanks to Sweetwater for inviting me, and I hope you guys enjoy your wireless freedom, not having to be tethered to a cable, and also enjoy performing on a clean stage.